my attention has been drawn to this important issue. Now, some persons are very silent about that, ignoring it perhaps for obvious reasons or reasons well personal to them. But we cannot, as a people, ignore this. I mean, the Biafrans, the world over, can't ignore this particular issue that have been raised by the Chief of Staff, Dr. Ngozi Orabueze. Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, as the Chief of Staff, is answerable to the Prime Minister, and she stands as the spoke or mouthpiece of the Prime Minister and can report to the Prime Minister directly. Now, if the Chief of Staff, Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, has called the attention of the finance minister or the finance secretary to give account on the spendings or expenditures that have been incurred or the financial inflow that has to do with the Biafran struggle, and the finance minister eventually snubs the chief of staff, which is Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, the chief of staff to the Biafrans, not just to the prime minister. It simply means, as I listened to Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, that he called his attention on several occasions and he snubbed her for obvious reasons. It simply means purely an act of insubordination. The finance minister is subject and should be loyal to the Biafran people, not just to the chief of staff or the prime minister. You are answerable to the people. You are representative of the people. And if you are called to give account of your stewardship and you have nothing to hide, you have no cupboard skeleton in your cupboard, you have nothing to cover up, nothing stops you to plainly come out to table the account, give account of your stewardship within a specified time frame, especially after the Finland Convention. And the chief of staff is doing what she is expected to do. Let's come and give account of the spendings before and thereafter reconcile the accounts and know exactly where we stand financially and where, of course, we needed to source for more funds, and the ones that have been remitted by Biafrans or from any quarter is accountable or accounted for, then it means it leaves a moral burden on the finance minister. There is no justification for whatever reason that you fail to give account. That is the first position. That is the first thing you must give. Once you are called upon, give account. You are a servant to the Biafrans. You are not lording it over. So, behaving in such manner, because I have listened, I have respecting the finance minister Ikere to come and debunk that nobody called him for attention, for accountability. You are accountable to the Biafrans. You are accountable to the CFO or COS, the chief of staff, to the prime minister, or by extension to the Biafrans. Now, if you snub her, or perhaps neglecting her because she is a woman, that is another dimension, of course, that needs stringent actions and some code of discipline to be applied. Now, you cannot ignore her on the basis that she is a lady. Of course, there have been other prime ministers of different nations who are ladies and have performed exceptionally well. Now, the question is to be asked is this: you cannot flout the instructions given and still believe you can take advantage of the same circumstances. What do I mean by this? You see, people referring to the charter, the Biafran charter, while indirectly being insubordinated, being defiant to comply with the rules of engagement is meaningless and baseless. If the chief of staff has called the attention, which by virtue of her position or office, she is right to call for accountability to know how much has been expended, those that have been given certain responsibilities, how they were able to deliver on that, and if there is any lapses, of course, they can make it up and see how such could be covered in subsequent uh, editions or events. So if you fail to respond to that call to give accounts as a steward, it means you are now lording it over. That attitude of pride, that attitude of pomposity must be busted, because without you can't make any good leadership. The person must have definitely some hitches along his path of leadership. And it's very important you stay where you know how to do best. If you're a goalkeeper, you can become a defender or attacker. Otherwise, if you're aiming to be an attacker and while you are gifted to be a goalkeeper, you will make blunders. You will make blunders, and that will be a misplacement of priority. You must fix in where you know best how to do. To avoid calamity, to avoid catastrophe, because leadership has to do with qualities, certain qualities. It has to do with your ability to convince the people that you really represent them. If there is any element of doubt about your credibility, about your commitment and devotion to the people, you're gonna have a problem. Now, if Dr. Ngozi Orabueze has accused the finance minister of insubordination, failing to render accounts, that leaves some question on his integrity, because that will give room to speculations, perhaps even though he may have what justification on the personal ground not to have come. That is immaterial. The Biafrans will not understand it that way. People will be reading meaning that eventually the money has been moved out without the prior notice of the chief of staff and the prime minister and other member cabinets and the Biafrans at large. So whatever that's bear you from coming to tender an account, a transparent account, and give details on how the inflows and the money outflows went, be able to tabulate them and give details on that, and you are running away from that responsibility. It leaves a very serious moral question or burden on the said person, because you cannot be citing the charter while you fail to do what is needful. It's a violation, it's a letdown on the main charter you are referring to, because there are hierarchies of operations and there are lines or chains of reporting. Everybody is answerable to the chief of staff, and the chief of staff to the prime minister of the Biafran state, and by extension the prime minister to the Biafrans. Now, if you fail to give accounts, transparent accounts, it means you are leaving a moral burden, a question that you must answer, if not now, anytime in the future, because that will tell on your credibility, on your transparency, and your ability to lead a transparent, less fraudulent group. Because the Biafrans are too intelligent and too wise. If you are not faithful in the little things, you may not be faithful in the bigger things or responsibilities given to you. You cannot say you are too big to give account to the Biafrans. It is much anticipated. Now, if the chief of staff is demanding for such, and you fail to do that, you have not just ignored or neglected the chief of staff, But you have ignored and neglected the entire Biafran, over 100 million Biafrans. Because I know that Biafrans are more than 100 million. Now, if 50 millions could have voted for the self referendum, now, needed to count the number of people who do not participate because of the constraints they have to participate, and talk about the children of Biafrans that we are not part of the referendum. Talk about the aged ones. Talk about those who are busy, who are indifferent about the entire Biafran process or struggle, who are neither here or there, because they are indecisive as far as the Biafran cause is concerned. Then, when you have a collection of all these starters who are not part of this, you know that the Biafran population will be more than 100 million plus. Now, it is an affront to ignore the entire Biafrans, in as much as they are expecting that those entrusted with the responsibility of key positions or offices must be accountable to them.